this guy gets it. Like, you are a awesome marketer. I'm not gonna lie. Like, when I was reading the book, I was like, I hope this doesn't go under the radar for most people.
Because I realized I'm learning how to run a business from professors who have never ran businesses. And that didn't make sense. So I dropped out and I started writing books about businesses that I ran. And those did decently well. People started asking how to do it. And then that led to creating Self-Publishing School. And then fast forward to today, in the last 7 years, we've published a little over 6,000 books.
Wow.
Now, and that was part of doing the second edition, is how do I more strategically structure this book to generate leads, sales, and referrals for my business?
All right, here we go. Hey, I'm Luis.
And I'm Luis.
And you're listening to the Content is Profit podcast,
where we talk about entrepreneurship, mindset, and of course, how to turn your content into profit.
That's right. So go ahead to contentisprofit.com and join the community.
Let's
go.
Yeah, guys. And today we have an incredible guest, and he's going to be talking all about an incredible topic, which is disrupting the traditional publishing industry. Much more.
Much more.
Yeah, much more. We actually were discussing, like, dude, we want to take this conversation to so many places, but we'll see where it goes.
I wanna count how many episodes. Just say incredible guest, incredible topic.
We need like a compilation of that.
I know. Well, we try. Every single guest is incredible,
exactly.
And every topic is so awesome. Okay,
it's not my fault that we just get awesome people here on the podcast. Just throwing that out there,
guys. If you're enjoying this show, go ahead and follow it in your favorite platform and on social media at BIZBROS, where you can connect with us.
That is right. And if today's guests help you move one step closer towards your goal, please don't forget to share this episode with 3 friends. That is your ticket of admission. Thank you.
I have a question. Are you ready to grow your impact, income, and business? Then you better be ready for today's epic guest.
That is right. Today's guest is in this world to challenge traditional publishing and help others change people's lives by putting their stories and wisdom into books. All this while being a broke college dropout turned multi-millionaire dollar business owner in 18 months. I just added a few words in there.
That's very impressive.
For emphasis.
That is actually very impressive. He's also the host of the Self-Publishing School podcast, owner of the selfpublishing.com, author of Published.
Dude.
And the person that will hold your hand as you write your next book.
I'm just going to say there, he has the right positioning. This guy knows marketing, and we're going to dive into that.
Yeah.
Please welcome the guy that will take you from blank page to 10,000 copies sold, Chandler Bolt. Let's go.
Woo, I'm fired up. I can't wait to hear that guy.
Who's that guy?
What's up, Chandler? Man? How you doing?
Welcome to the show, man.
Great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Oh, man, it's a pleasure. I've been waiting for this day. You know, we had a previous conversation, a connection call, just getting to know each other. And I was like, this guy is legit. So I'm very excited. I'm going to throw this out there. I read about 3/4 of the book. I still haven't finished it yet. But I was like, man, this is pretty good. You're going to help a lot of people with it. But before we dive into that, for those that don't know you, or they might not know your story, you know how you went from college dropout to turning to millionaire, multi-million dollar business owner. Like, what's the story in there?
Yeah, so I would say, you know, I'm a C-level English student and a college dropout with ADHD who ended up writing and publishing books. And someone who hated writing and hated reading, but really fell in love with both and discovered that books changed lives. My backstory, I mean, I'm kind of an entrepreneur through and through, dropped out of college because I realized I'm learning how to run a business from professors who have never ran businesses. And that didn't make sense. So I dropped out and I started writing books about businesses that I ran. And those did decently well. People started asking how to do it. And then that led to creating Self-Publishing School. And then fast forward to today, in the last 7 years, we've published a little over 6,000 books.
Wow.
In that time period. And so we publish 1 to 3 books a day, changed a lot of lives through those books and grown a lot of businesses and And then us as a business, we've grown pretty quick in that time frame too.
Wow, that's crazy. Wait, before with that, I have so many questions here, and I'm gonna let my brother put in some questions in here as well.
Chandler, there's that hashtag going around called FONZI choke the mic.
I like to take over sometimes.
That's what happens.
I'm just curious. You mentioned that you had some previous experience with businesses and whatnot. Do you had any like entrepreneurial background? Your parents, family members that they had their own businesses, or were you just like natural entrepreneur? You were like, let me figure things out.
Yeah. I would say my dad was an entrepreneur, runs a small town construction business. My mom is dental hygienist turned realtor. So, being a realtor is kind of like running your own business. And so that, it's kind of in the DNA a little bit, I'd say.
Yeah. The reason we asked, right, like we grew up in a family, probably zero entrepreneurship.
Yeah,
Our dad had a hint, but it's like, is that guy that tries?
He's the hustler.
And that was like the whole perspective. And that started even after we came to the States, right? We were originally from Venezuela. So that's pretty cool. And it has been a fun challenge, like coming without like any expectations or like not knowing, right? It's been like, crazy world.
Immigrants are the ultimate entrepreneurs. If you were an immigrant, first generation immigrant, you're an entrepreneur, whether you started a business or not. I think because you made an independent decision that's outside of the norm, which I think and you created a different future, right, for your family.
Yeah.
That's entrepreneurship. It's the same in my opinion. I've got one of the guys on my staff, Pedro Matos, wrote a book called I Wish Everyone Was an Immigrant. And it's about kind of what we can learn from immigrants in the pursuit of the American dream. And I think it's very applicable for your dad.
Yep.
Yeah. But I'm just going to throw this out there. We've had a title for a book. Well, you started it and then I kind of like took it as well, which is What to Do When Your Dreams Don't Come True. We might have to come to you, Chandler.
Yeah, there's some powerful stories before 2010 in there. I'm very curious. Like, why a book, right? Like you're in college dropout. You're like, attention going crazy. Like I believe that I'm also self-diagnosed, all of that, right? I don't have the proof, but writing was really challenging for me, right? Like, so that's when we found video and podcasting, and this medium has helped us so much. So I'm very curious, like, why books? Like, what ignited that? Like, and then how were you able to keep consistency?
Yeah. So why books? I think I felt like I had information that would help people, and it started out as a small PDF, and it evolved into a book. And we said one day, hey, this is getting kind of good. Like, maybe we should publish this on Amazon. And so I think if I would have set out with my first book to write and publish a book, I think I probably would have been too intimidated to do it. Because,
that's good.
I was the person who my classmates would, spend an hour or 2-3 hours, turn a paper in, get an A. I'd be up all night in the library, turn that paper in, get a C or a D, right? It's just, it just wasn't working. So I think I felt like, hey, this can help people. And then over time, I've fallen in love with the mechanism of books. And I think they're one of the best ways to crystallize thought. And then to also create what I call leveraged impact. You create this book once, that book goes on to impact thousands, maybe even tens of thousands, millions of people, right? And so that plus the reader in me, so we always talk about how books change the lives of readers, right? The author in me. So books change the lives of authors too. It's not about the book, it's about who you become in the process of writing and publishing that book. And so I started to realize when I dropped out, I said, I need to treat it like I'm still in school. Keep learning like I'm still in school. And what I realized is, so many people look for a mentor and they're like, how do I find a mentor? The smartest, most successful people on the planet have crystallized the best things they know into a book. It's a $15 mentor. For $15 and a handful of hours, you can read that book and learn the best things that they know. And so I just started doing that and seeing the fruits of that in my business. So I think the combo of both of those, it's like, okay, me as an author, but then also me as a reader, like this is a really powerful mechanism.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Hold on. Can I make a comment? It's not a question; it's a comment.
All right.
Clearly, there's a battle going over here, Chandler, for your love. Anyways, so you mentioned something that was like is super important in the creation process, right? Because a lot of the people that we help with their shows or to grab that traction, even after they're already publishing for a few years in video form, right, is removing the friction. Sometimes we lean towards like adding a ton of friction, and right now with our coaching clients. It's funny because they come with like this preconceived notion of what a show could look like. And then when we explore what that perfect show would look like is all these things, right? And then you're like, okay, what adds friction to you right now to start executing? And there's all these things, right? And they're like, okay, can we reduce it? And I love how you said it started with a PDF and then it evolved through that, right? And immediately I personally had a massive epiphany in that exact moment because I'm like, we've been thinking about these things and we probably have frameworks for days to potentially develop different kind of books or different things on different concepts and different things, right? And you're like, okay, same concept applies, right? Remove the friction. So let this be a reminder.
Sentimental over here.
I'm getting so emotional. It's like I've seen it. It's a reminder, right, for everybody listening that has been following the journey. Remove the friction. Whatever. It doesn't matter what the medium is. For us, it was podcasting. For us, it's long form video. But it applies as well. So thank you for bringing that out there.
Yeah, as I was reading your book, I was actually thinking like, oh man, like we already have a few frameworks that would fit perfectly into the same type of book that you wrote, right? And there's a chapter in there where you kind of like categorize the different types of books that somebody can write. And I think you made it crystal clear, but I want to back up here a little bit. And, I thought that I just got while you were explaining your journey in school and then moving on was that I feel like academic writing is what turns people off from doing something else, right? Because there's this perception that if you don't write that way, you're writing the wrong way. And I think that happens with a lot of things. Once we start getting into, publishing video, X, Y, and Z, other different mediums, right? We see how certain people do it. And that is all we know. That is our frame or perspective. And we think, if I don't do it like that, I'm doing it wrong. But what I love about you is that you went on and you find your own way. By finding your own way, then you said that it's about who you become while you are writing this book. And you clearly started developing your own framework and then realized, wow, I can help many other people do the same thing. I think that change is absolutely amazing. So can you illustrate a little bit what is that person that you turn into, right? Which is, I feel is more the Chandler of today.
Yeah, well, and also I'll touch on that, but I also want to touch on one thing you just mentioned there, which is academic writing turning off people to writing. And I think an important thing as an aspiring author is write like you talk and teach how people learn. And so in this book, right? So write like you talk and teach how people learn. And because if you do that, then people will get more out of the book. And so I think that's a maybe an encouragement for people is they say sometimes the best students or the worst students are the best teachers because they know what it's like to struggle. And so for me, I've always felt like my gift was making complex topics or things simple. Yeah. It's like, for me, it's like, can you explain it to me on a napkin? If not, I'm probably not going to get it. And so I need you to do that. And so when I'm teaching, I want to explain stuff on a napkin so that somebody instantly gets it. And so I think that in a way circles back to answer the who you become in the process of writing a book, which is, you learn so many skills. You learn writing skills, you learn marketing skills, you learn business skills, you learn so many of those things, but you also become a better communicator and you crystallize your concepts.
Yeah.
Because you're having to crystallize it into a book. So with this book, the newest book, I wrote the first edition years ago. This is the second edition that just came out. So much of what we teach changed in those 5-6 years, but the book didn't. And that's why I wanted to do the second edition. But even the process of doing the second edition, there were all of these concepts that were vague, they were kind of fuzzy, they were loosely connected that I just never took the time to sit down and say, all right, I need to crystallize and make this a clear framework or checklist or acronym or any of those things. And the writing of the second edition forced me to do that, which now makes all of our content better.
Yeah,
and so I think that's, for people thinking about writing a book, that's one of the powers of doing it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And by the way, guys, Chandler here has been super kind, and he's actually giving away 50 hard copies of his book. So make sure you go check him out at publishbook.com/CIP. Go and claim your copy.
For the people tuning live, is the link good to go? Can we?
Yeah, the link's good to go today. And first 50 people get a physical copy of the book. It's publishedbook.com/CIP. So content is profit. That's in the US. If you're outside the US, you can still fill out the form and we'll send you a digital copy.
That's
of
awesome.
The book for free as well.
Yeah, that's great. And for those that like audiobooks and Kindle and stuff like that, you also have those in there, because that's where I got it from. I love the audio sync. I think that tool is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to something that you mentioned in the book that really caught my attention. And I think this applies for every sort of content. You know, most people, I feel like they create with the perception, or more the expectation of, I'm going to impact a whole bunch of people, right? And there's this kind of like proportion that you give inside of the book, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but you said for every 1,000 books that you have, like 800 people are going to read it, 200 people will be like influenced by it, and you're going to change one person's life, something like that. And again, I don't remember the whole numbers. If you do the math with those numbers that you said, probably doesn't add up. But I find that super impressive, because a lot of people are like, I feel like they expected that if they create something, it's going to change everybody's life immediately. And that is discouraging, because of course, when you don't see those responses coming your way, you're like, oh, well, why am I going to keep doing this, right? Why am I going to keep being consistent? And I'm curious on, like, how did you notice that? How did you notice that you had that one person out of this multitude of people that you were actually changing their life? Is there a story in there that, you know, maybe somebody got to you on, you know, maybe made you tear up a little bit, or what?
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of stories, but I think when people reach out and say, this book changed my life, and then there's, you know, that's really what urged me to do the second edition, is so many stories like that. Because I think sometimes it sounds funny to say, as someone who's, you know, written a few books and all that, like, my focus is really a lot on self-publishing school. So I view myself more as an entrepreneur than an author, in a weird way. But what started happening is, I remember my brother, he plays in a pretty big rock and roll band, and they were about to go on tour, and his guitar tech said, hey, you know, how's your brother doing? And he said, how do you know my brother? And he said, well, I read his book and I published a book. And then I went to a Cidercade here in Austin, and I'm there like playing arcade games and stuff. Somebody comes up to me, they're like, hey, are you that guy who wrote that book called Published? And I was like, yeah. And he said, well, me and my sister, who's right here, we both read it and we both published books. That's awesome. And it's like those stories just kept popping up everywhere. And so then I realized, hold up, okay, we've changed so many lives and published over 6,000 books through self-publishing school. How many stories like this are there of people who didn't even work with us at self-publishing school, just read this book and then wrote and published their book? And so just realizing this can be a huge example of leveraged impact for me personally. And it'll be one of the best things we do to grow the business.
Absolutely.
And so that's where I really started to see that out in the wild. And that really drove it home to do the next book. And then, you know, there's tons of other stories of like seeing that happen for our students and their books and like all that.
Yeah. I feel like is that hourglass effect, I think it is. You know that, I mean, you impacted those students, those people that might have not been your students, but I guess indirectly they were your students through the book, right? And then they publish, and then those people are going to go on and impact other people. So I got that ripple effect. I think that is absolutely amazing. And I want to encourage, you know, the person that is listening right now to think about their content like that. It's like, hey, maybe you're not going to impact all 100,000 people that tune into your content, but maybe you can impact one person, right? And we always give this, I guess, illustration of this picture. Imagine yourself in a room with 10 people, right? And you have to speak in front of them. Like, it does become a little bit intimidating. But when we see the number 10, for example, right on the screen, oh, only 10 people watch this video. I don't know why that perception changes. But at the end of the day, like, that impact is absolutely amazing.
Since you mentioned that phrase, like, write like you talk and teach how you and teach how people learn. That was like glue, sticky, which I love because obviously our English is not very good looking. So
that's your English.
That's my English. That's definitely my English. But here's my story. When I came in college, right, I went to the University of North Florida, and my English was way worse, like 9 years ago. So I remember sitting down in writing class, and this was probably one of the first pieces of content that I created in English, right? And this person was like, hey, write this essay. And I literally wrote like I speak, right? And I was one of the lucky ones. I had a professor that she read it, and she's like, this is amazing. Do not ever change the way that you write.
Was it in Spanglish?
No, it was definitely in English. But you know, to me, I was like, oh, wow, this is great. Like I didn't receive like any feedback, but like encouragement, right? And then I discover that that's not the case in most education system here or even back home, right? And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. So I guess I was lucky to have that experience at the very beginning, and now you're reaffirming. It's like great, but that set me to like be very authentic, the way that I write, the way that I speak, the way that we do this show, even right, like from the last like 200 episodes. But how do you identify how people learn, right? Like, because like we just started with our programs. Like we've offered the service for the last 2 years, and we've been very fortunate to people that have been coming into a world that they potentially could do the service, but they cannot afford it, right? And that's fine. But now we're like, okay, how can we actually serve these people? And we have these programs that we have going on. We have a couple betas running.
Yeah.
But it has been challenging, right? Because like, sometimes we're so in it, and we're so passionate about these things. You know, I am guilty of technobabble, how FONZI calls it, right? Like I go into the technical things. And so how do you identify how people learn?
It's a great question. So I'm going to use you guys as a case study. So you said you've been teaching this for 2 years?
We've been offering the service of content momentum service.
And then now you've got a beta you've got a couple betas happening?
Yes.
And then you've got people, I'm assuming, is this in a one-on-one or a group environment?
We've had both. So the one active right now is in a one-on-one environment. Perfect.
And so what I would do and what I've done is I use those beta programs. And even if anyone's listening to this, watching this and has one-on-one client work, you've had probably similar conversations. And so the first step to running a great business is creating systems and SOPs, right? And then that allows you to scale. And so in creating some of those systems and SOPs, you've actually started creating some of the structure for your book of how you teach this process. And then I would look at, with this beta group, the way I've done beta groups in the past is sell, then build. So sell it out first, then ask, okay, how do I build this in a way that will be helpful for you? And then build exactly what they want. And then say, if you have any questions as we build this out or things that aren't covered, reach out to me and I'll create content specifically on that. So you're making a better experience for all your customers while also making a better product because you're answering the questions that people have as you go along the way. And then as you keep cycling, you know, at this point with self-publishing school, we've just had thousands and thousands of students run through this curriculum. You just keep iterating. And I think there's a few ways that if you're trying to teach how people learn, it's iterative learning, and it's you see what lands and when is someone like, hey, this is technobabble. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going to mention that. And now maybe, so you've seen kind of iterations of that. So you've built that instinct and for most people, if you have something worth teaching in a book, you've probably been out in the field doing it. And so that you have gotten feedback loops on how people learn specific to this concept. Or this concept or this content. And that's going to help you refine it already before you even start writing.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned there something very important, feedback loop, right? And we have a friend, I think we have this friend in common. He was also on the show.
Now, who's the best English? I'm just saying, hashtag pick a bro.
His name is Alex Sharfin, right? He's amazing. And when he came, he talked about having those 100 conversations with future customers, right? Or prospects. He's like, before building anything or before delivering on the product, right? Sell then build, make sure you're talking to 100 people and they're going to give you the feedback of exactly what they want. And I think, like you mentioned, right? That is the way to learn, to teach how people learn, right? Now, I want to transition here a little bit to marketing, because when I was reading / listening to your book, I noticed in my mind, I was like, this guy gets it. Like, you are a awesome marketer. I'm not gonna lie. Like, when I was reading the book, I was like, I hope this doesn't go under the radar for most people, because most people feel like publishing a book is just the act of, building it, putting it out there, and kind of like passively wait or very passively promote the book. But you gave me, you didn't use these words in the book, but it gives me the impression that you use the book obviously as a top of funnel, mechanism to bring people into your world, into your business. And, you have call to actions throughout the book. You have resources, multiple places for people to sign up to your email list. There's even a place in the book where you mentioned, and I love this, you said, for me, it's more valuable an email, the contact information of somebody, than the royalties that I can get from a book. And I was like, this is awesome. This guy is definitely your homie right here. So talk to me a little bit about that. Like, how did you discover that part of publishing, right? How did you realize the leverage that publishing your own book could have in your business?
Yeah, I think I published the first book. It built an email list of 4,000 people within, I want to say 3 to 6 months. And I had nothing to sell them, which most people have a product to sell and no email list, right? But I realized, oh my gosh, this is the power of a book. And so now, and that was part of doing the second edition, is how do I more strategically structure this book to generate leads, sales, and referrals for my business? Now, I think 2 things are really important here. You need to write a really great book, teach everything you know, and people will pay you to tell that to them again. Right. So don't hold back and don't make this a glorified sales pitch or pamphlet for your business, like a lot of people do. But then strategically turn readers into subscribers or paying customers by just the structure. And so that's where I wanted to, on this next pass, say, all right, and I'm making the book better while also turning those folks into leads or customers, right? So I've got a part in the book about how to outline your book. And then I say, hey, go here to get a 25-page Google Doc template where you can just fill in the blanks for your book. That's really helpful, right? And so I'm creating a helpful resource to where if they're reading the book, they're like, oh man, this is going to save me dozens of hours by downloading this thing. And when I'm downloading this thing, I'm raising my hand and saying, hey, I'm interested, and maybe I'd want to work with self-publishing school. Yeah. So little things like that. And it's funny, I actually have a chapter in the book about how people can do this strategically. Use a book to grow your email list, because I think it's one of the best things you can do to turn to improve lead, sales, and referrals for your business. You're building a multi-hour relationship with someone. You're proving your worth, and the root word of authority is author. You can't spell the word authority without the word author, right?
Oh, that's good.
You're becoming authority in the mind of your reader.
Yeah, that's so good. You can tell how both of us were like, ooh, let's take notes right now.
Yeah, hold on. Golden boulder moment. Yep. Golden boulder moment. FONZI, you brought your helmet. We don't have the helmets yet. You're slacking. Okay. Chandler, like we have this analogy, right? When we first were introduced to like the online marketing things, and we were under this amazing mentor that we have, and this was a few years back, but he was describing this situation where like your customer, right? Imagine a golf course, right, on the green, and you have like the hole, and then what we're trying to sell, like depending on your message, right? If the ball is as close as possible to the hole versus as far as possible from the hole, right? And I feel like with every page of your book, and I haven't read it, by the way, full disclosure, like after this,
shame
I'm going to, I know, shame on me. FONZI like kept it for himself, by the way. Like he told me this morning, oh, by the way, did you read a challenge book? And I'm like, what book? So he definitely threw me under the bus in there, but I'll be like consuming it like crazy. But I feel like with the description, what you're doing with every single page is like a little tap to that ball to get her very close to it, like giving all the resources and helping them and guiding them through this journey to get them in there. And that's exactly the path that we describe on content. But here you have like this, you're creating this experience really, that is very positive, that you're getting closer and closer because you get him to execute, to take action, to do things, and through those actions they get to know you a little bit better.
Well, and let me just touch on that, because I think this is the essence of content marketing, right? Which is content marketing. I think it when done well, it does 2 things. It adds value and fulfills the intent of the searcher, right? Or the person who is looking for that. So it is an added value, positive experience, and it moves that person closer to a buying decision.
Yeah.
right? And so when you do both, the goal is that they, if you have a solution that solves that problem that they're searching for, well, then yes, you're going to add value with that content. And then it's exactly what you said. We're going to move them closer to a buying decision. Now that decision might be no, but we're moving them closer to a decision where they're understanding that either I'm going to write this book or I'm not, and I'm going to work with self-publishing school or I'm not.
Yeah, absolutely. I love how you put it. That is the essence of content marketing right there. And writing a book is a big piece of it as well, right? And I love how you mentioned that don't make your book a glorified pamphlet for your business. And I could tell, again, one of my thoughts as I was reading your book, I was like, dude, I could literally go and publish a book by myself just with this book that you created. You made it in a way it looks it feels a bit as a workbook, which is really cool too, right? You get like, okay, now it's time to do the mind mapping, right? Cool, let's sit down and you give a resource for that. Let's do it. And I think that's extremely important because now one of the challenges I see with content marketing or any sort of information out there is that people are in this kind of like consumer mode, and they just consume one thing and then they move on to the next one. But you, in a way, hold them accountable to take action. It's like, okay, cool, you learned this. Now it's time to put it into action. And I think by doing that, you're also building trust with the audience, right? And they're actually attributing their success, or if they get certain result, they're going to attribute that to you and to your book. And I think that is key right there when we're talking, again, the essence of content marketing is don't just give information, actually help people to take the action to move them steps forward, right? Don't just give them stuff and forget about it. No, like we genuinely want to help these people, in this case, publish a book, right?
Yeah. Chandler, clearly there's competition out there, right? Like for your business. Since we started this journey on content, like we've seen it everywhere, right? But I think like you probably are one of the ones that created like the most positive impact, not just by the conversation, but like with the way that you've structured everything and how you position yourself. So on the marketing side, on the content side, it's very important how you position yourselves. Like for us, we've heard the feedback, the energy, the way that you guys run the show, whatever. Like that is like the thing, right? That is like you met the BIZBROS. Have you been in the party yet? I'm like, what party? But it's like, how do you guys decided how to position your company, right? And what was that process like?
Great question. I don't know that it was so much of a process. It's probably the same as you guys, right? I don't know if it was so much of a process as much as it was just being who we are and saying this is what's important to us. And so we know that we want to be genuine. We want to be authentic. We want to be helpful. We want to be positive, upbeat, young, vibrant, kind of this in a publishing world where a lot of those things don't exist. We want to be that kind of breath of fresh air. But then we also want to be very action oriented. And it's always about the very next step. And so when we're working with our students, it's milestones. And then how do you take the next step? Let's be punchy, short, to the point, and let's move forward. And so kind of that high energy, high accountability, next step orientation that I think it's just who we are and who we become as a company.
Absolutely. Awesome. I think that's awesome. Chandler, we're getting here close to the end, but I'm curious on what's next for you and your company, right? I mean, you published the second version of your book. Do you have any other books in the works? Are you working on some programs? Here, spill the beans.
Yeah. No books in the works for now. I'm doing what I teach, which is market the book that you have. And this is, so for at least the next year, I'll be screaming from the rooftops about this book, right?
Yeah.
But what's next for the company? We're on a mission to publish 100,000 books by 2035.
Wow.
That's the big goal. We've, like I said, 7,000 books of the way there that we know of that we can track so far. So long way to go, a lot of progress so far. But yeah, long way to go. And then we also, what's new, we just rolled out a bunch of done for you services. So it was just a big challenge for our students, and they've asked about this for years, and we just quite frankly didn't want to do it. And we said, all right, but we'll do it. So now we do book formatting, we do cover design, we upload to Amazon, pick keywords, like all these, publish their book for them, like all these things that just were really roadblocks, and people would have to pay a bunch of different people to help. Now it's kind of, we've it's all under the roof of Self-Publishing School and selfpublishing.com. So that's what we started doing, which has been a big hit.
Yeah, it's a good lesson there for those that are listening that have their own business as well. Listen to your customers.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Build for what they're asking, right? And yes, I agree with you. Sometimes it's like, but I really don't want to do that. But guess what? We actually, just like our previous guest said, on Wednesday, James, he told us like, man, like I love taking things from 0 to 1, but I hate being the consistent one doing that one thing forever. So he's like, I'll just build it, I'll validate it, and then I'll hire somebody to be consistent. And I think that is, as a business owner, as the entrepreneur, that is our role, right? Sure, I'm going to listen to this person. They have this challenge. Can I offer the solution? Great. I can build it, take it from 0 to 1, and then build the systems and processes, just like you mentioned, and then put somebody in place to run that.
Chandler, this has been super exciting. By the way, like you're more than invited for part 2 of Content is Profit. We have to continue this conversation.
We got to talk about your podcast. I'm curious about listening to, podcasts and take on podcasting and then books and all that stuff. I think it would be interesting.
So before that, we're going to let the audience vote. They're going to tell us, yes, I can feel it. But anyways, even if they say no, you're going to be coming. Anyways, Chandler, what's a good action point for somebody that's in that transition, right? They have a business. They're like, oh my gosh, there's all this knowledge. I need to structure in a way. Like, how can I be consistent? Like they're in that stage of trying to find out like what's their publishing like route. Like, so what's your advice?
Start and take 15 minutes as soon as this interview is over. Blank sheet of paper, write your book topic, put 15 minutes on the clock, write out everything that you can think of on that topic, stories, lessons you've learned, all those things, brainstorm. I talk about that, I want to say in chapter 5 of the book. And just start with that. And you'll be amazed at how much content that you have in that noggin of yours.
Yeah. Oh, it was so good. This reminds me with Jeff, one of the coaching clients that we have. His friction point was actually going on video, right? And we're like, okay, for the next 7 days, just do one video a day, right? And today we had the other call and he's like, I have 40 more topics. I'm going to keep going. And you're like, oh, this is incredible. We like unlocked it. And
progress begets progress.
Yes. And to your point, man, those 15 minutes, we'll unlock that. And so thank you for that.
I have another action point. Go to publishbook.com/CIP and claim your copy of the book.
I know.
Yeah, grab a copy of the book for free. I noticed, I was just looking, we had a couple people already while we were on here.
Hey, let's go!
It's for free and it's on me and there's no shipping and handling. There's none of that stuff. Literally just tell me where to send it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You're going to see my name very soon over there because FONZI hit all the resources that you guys share with
me. Do it, man. Do it.
Where will you be if you didn't publish?
Whoo. Oh my gosh. I can't even fathom that. Not running self-publishing school, maybe still in school. I don't know. Maybe running some other business, but definitely not on the stage that I'm on and where we're at. I can't imagine.
Yeah, it's crazy to think. I love that question because like for us too, I mean, we've been with the podcast 2 years now, and it's hard to imagine. Like we would have been out of business for sure.
Oh yeah, out of business. Yeah, probably on the streets.
Well, Katie would have taken care of me. Katie is my wife, by the way. Huge shout out to my beautiful wife. All right, here we go. She doesn't listen to these episodes, by the way.
One day she'll listen and she'll be like, wow, so many shout outs.
I know you love me. Chandler, I mean, obviously they can find you at publishedbook.com/CIP. Go get your free copy. But what else? Where they can connect with you, with your company, with your show?
Yeah, I'm old school. So only social media I have is Facebook. We've got the Self-Publishing School podcast where we interview top authors. That might be a helpful resource. And the last piece is if you're thinking, hey, this is inspiring, I want to write a book, and I want to see about maybe getting self-publishing schools help, putting together an action plan, that sort of thing. Go to self-publishingschool.com/apply, and you can book a call with my team. We'll chat through your idea, your goals, your next steps, and put together an action plan. See if we might be able to help.
That's so awesome, man. This has been incredible. Thank you for joining us on a Friday.
Yeah.
To the party.
It's a good start to the weekend, let me tell you.
Yeah. Chandler, anything else you want to add before we head out?
You guys are amazing. I love, it sounds like you've gotten this feedback before, but I love the energy and the enthusiasm. And then just the, you guys are naturals at this. I love what you're doing. It's so cool. And just seeing your love for each other and for this topic and this content and just, what you're creating. It's very unique. It's very needed. So keep it up.
Wow.
Thank you, man.
Means a lot, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you don't see the behind the scenes where we punch each other, but it's fine. This is the happy place. We're like, okay, we need to stop fighting. Let's go to the show.
Yeah,
I know. We really appreciate the feedback.
We're gonna have to do a Austin, Texas tour.
I know. There's so many awesome people over there that been on the show. So.
Yeah, we've interviewed a few people from Austin, and there's quite a few people in Austin that we want to interview too. I feel like that's the hot spot right now.
Come to Texas, baby.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Any line dancing or two-stepping? Yeah?
Yeah.
Let's go.
I grew up in South Carolina, so that's
You're a natural.
You gotta know a little bit.
Yeah, funny story. Before we head out, we ended up going to, when we had the t-shirt company, we were in this conference in Orlando, and it was like 3 Venezuelans and our roommate who's a 6 foot Southern, and the company was called 6 foot Southern, right? So we ended up in downtown Orlando in the only, I think it was called Saddle Up, the only country bar downtown Orlando, and the only ones doing the two-step were the Venezuelans. We were the 2 Venezuelans trying to teach two-step into the Orlando people. That was hilarious. We might have been.
I thought you were gonna. I feel like two-stepping is to the South what salsa is to like Miami, Southern Florida.
Pretty much.
Pretty accurate.
Very accurate. I mean, we had a good time. We might have to see where the pictures are.
Awesome. So what I got from this part of the conversation is that we're going two-stepping in Austin, and we're recording a whole bunch of podcasts when we go there.
Sounds like I need to get you guys to teach me.
All right, we'll see. That could be pretty chaotic.
Yeah. All right, guys. With that said, thank you so much for tuning into the Content is Profit podcast. Go ahead and follow this show in your favorite social media channels and at BIZBROS Co.
That is right. And if Chandler here help you move one step forward towards your goal, please don't forget to get your book at publishbook.com/CIP and leave a 5-star review. See ya.
Bye, guys.